Hello, wonderful, beautiful people that are within my reach. Thank you for giving me your attention. I'm just really enjoying this new thing I'm doing, which is just writing on stuff and holding it up to the camera to introduce videos and make the thumbnail. Low tech solutions keep things moving. Anyway, I wanted to make this video to explain my move for my business onto Patreon. So the reason that I'm doing that is that I've been doing, I think, my most meaningful work in two different groups. One is actually my work with my dojo, which was kind of like a after business hours thing for years when we had the dojo over in 5 Points. I did all my economics work during the day and then went and taught martial arts classes, and that was fantastic. And then it kind of like dwindled when we lost our space because 5 Points became the most expensive place on earth. Then this other place I've been working a lot is with the Denver Permaculture Guild and with the Grow House and that whole community. And in both of those spaces, in different ways, I've been working on helping people to develop themselves as servants to their community and so servants to their family and that kind of thing. And it's funny because like the bodies of theory are actually, like, they seem really, really different on the surface, but when you dig down into them, they actually are so much the same in the world of classical martial arts and the world of social permaculture. And so I'm making like a home for both of those worlds that I've been working in on Patreon, and I'm making that my primary focus in business and in life as far as my occupation goes, because it's the most important work that I've been doing for the last decade plus. It's like, I looked at like all the other stuff, the things I did that made more money and all this other crap. And some of those things are really cool and I'm proud of them, but nowhere near as big as my economic projects and like the breakthroughs I've seen people have in the dojo or in the permaculture design courses, social permaculture or land-based. So now I am on Patreon. I want to say just a few things about how to get the most out of Patreon membership to Squiggles. I'm going to share my screen for a moment. So starting out on squiggles.com. So this first set of things I'm going to show you is actually true whether you're a patron or not, because like I said, I'm making all of this work the focus of my occupation. So if you're here on squiggles.com, you can see articles that I've written that are all like thematic pieces. This isn't scrolling probably because I'm in Zoom, but I'm gonna ignore that. And there's some articles there about this stuff that I'm doing. And you can read those. They're obviously free. And so that's where kind of like the end result of all this work, articles finally do end up there, but there aren't as many as there are for patrons, because patrons can read, the in progress stuff and comment on it and things like that. So that is a resource for you. Then there's this other thing up here where you see this like calendar looking thing that'll always just show like the current date. You can do one of two things. You can set an appointment or you can check out the events calendar. If you click set an appointment, it'll open up this thing where I'm just going to highlight the coffee. You can just put yourself on my calendar for right now, most likely a virtual cup of coffee. So it's BYOC, but you just pick a time slot and you just insert yourself directly into my calendar, and we'll talk economics. We'll talk, social permaculture. We'll talk martial arts if you want. So that's there. It's available for anybody. And obviously I'm going to like record those Zoom calls or take notes on any content if we do happen to get like, coffee and physical space, and try to make that available and make that generative information available to everybody. That's like kind of the point. And that's part of why it's free, is that, that generates a lot of really good information for lots of people. The other thing you can look at is this events calendar. So this just goes to a dry looking Google Calendar, but I'm going to jump back real quick to December where we had a bunch of talks. And so all of these events are over, but you can actually still jump into them, and you can, go to the documents, and most of them are kind of blank because I haven't really written the full articles, but you can do this thing where you can click on the workflowy node and you can see the outline for the talk and the discussion that we had. And some of these outlines get super robust and like really dive into the material. And the recordings of those talks are all in the Patreon account. And then some of those are bigger than others in terms of the workflow note or the articles. But those are all the past events. And then obviously you can check out upcoming events. For the month of January, we're just gonna be doing like this office hours thing because I've generated a lot of content and we had a lot of discussions that were kind of open-ended. So we're just going to go back and talk about the things that we left open-ended through December while I prep for a thing I'm going to tell you guys about in just a minute, but not right now. So that's stuff you can do on squiggles.com. You can check out events. You can book time to talk about these subjects with me one-on-one. And I hope that some people take advantage of that. So yeah, I'm going to jump over to the actual Patreon page. This is the Squiggles Patreon page. You can see that I think the levels are pretty reasonable. I want to really highlight this $2 a month. Like if you think that designing society for social uplift, developing community sovereignty is important, you can support this work for $2 a month and you actually get access to the full archive. It's read-only access, but you still get everything if you want all the information. So let's talk about what you get there with, all that, whatever all the information means, right? So in all of these posts, when I add things to the archive, there's a link that's just like to the archive. And then there are specific links to the things that I'm adding. But if you click the archive link, it opens up this Google Drive folder. And the Google Drive folder, I just reorganized it. Like I finished reorganizing it yesterday so that it's topical. It used to be like videos, articles, whatever. And then like all the topics were mixed up, which was an easy way for me to do it while I was creating the base content. But now there's a bunch of stuff. I organized it by topic. So the main topics are conflict, economics, and permaculture. And the appendices is like kind of side stuff. So just going to talk about the conflict thing first. Yokai Gumi is the name of the dojo. So this is going to be all of like the Karikatori material. So the Karikatori Arcanum is like official textbook material. And then we got, all this other stuff in here to help students studying the classical martial arts. And anybody who's a patron can look at that stuff too, even if you're not a martial artist with the Karikatori Ryu. And there's also stuff that's not necessarily related to classical martial arts, but is about conflict and violence, and then classical strategy. So this is all that Taoist strategy I talk about. And, the diaspora, including like Musashi and some Vedic stuff, it's in there. Economics, this is a big one. I talk like kind of the most about economics probably. So there are a bunch of videos that I've recorded just like this one by myself, and then talks like this, obviously, where there are like 30 people in this talk. And there's some Q&A where we really dig into like the 8 forms of capital and currency with the Denver Permaculture Guild. And then there's a folder that's actually just about the 8 forms of capital. So that's all in there. And I want to highlight this article. So this is an example of just a little article that's in the folder. And it talks about actually that talk I did at the Denver Permaculture Guild and what led up to it. And then it leads to one of those workflowy nodes. And this workflowy node is huge. It covers, everything from like what, the different forms of capital are. And these are all my notes from those videos I'm making. So they, it gets into all this stuff. You can see how that's just the expansion of one of those nodes. There's stuff under all of them. And then under currency, I've got, this set of typologies. Like this is taken from the International Journal of Complementary Currency Research. I actually merged a bunch of the different white papers on different ways of typifying currencies. It was basically making like a catalog of different currencies and how they help communities. And so this breaks down several different theories. Each one of these is a different theory on how to explain complementary currency. So that gets huge. And then there's one on characteristics. These are all like the different mechanical characteristics of a currency that can be mixed and matched to make different kinds of currencies. So if you want to like really get into money, like it all, like from this one article, you can dig way into money. So that's that, and a bunch of other stuff is in the economics folder. Then there's the permaculture folder. And honestly, like everything that's in the economics folder could be in here because holistic economics is a big part of what I do with social permaculture, but it's big enough as far as I study it to merit its own thing. And then the rest of social permaculture is in here. I've got, a little bit of stuff right now. There's gonna be a lot more on community organizing, especially as we get through this winter camp thing I've got coming up. Gonna be writing a lot of articles on how to work with people. And I wanna note, there are a lot of these little reference folders throughout, and these are like materials that are not by me, right? So there's some Martin Luther King, and actually this person who used to be in the collective that like my affinity group is the illustrator on this book, and it's publicly available as a PDF. They make it publicly available, all the co-authors, and it's a book on collective decision-making that's really fun, really well written. So lots of great resources in there in the permaculture, in the permaculture folder. And those are all available to anybody at the $2 level. Of course, if you're at the $6 level, you get commenting access on all these Google Docs. And so that makes you a part of the conversation. And at the $20 level, you get access to like the Slack channels and as many, it's like, yeah, basically just like a lot more stuff, little things. One thing that's coming up pretty soon that you'll have at the $20 level is I'm going to be releasing a piece of software for a piece of software that is like, it's kind of like a CRM, but it's really, really lightweight. If anybody's ever been in a business that uses like an enterprise CRM, those things are like crazy bonkers. And if you try to use it for organizing, they suck. Even Van sucks. Like if you've been an organizer and you've used Van, I think you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't used Van, ignore that. But I'm building right now. I've already got the prototype. I'm using the prototype myself. It is like a phone tree piece of software made specifically for grassroots organizers to work on issues and organizing communities. So Squiggles is building that piece of software. It's going to be available to you. There's another piece of software that actually the programming's already done for, which will come out sooner than that. And it's an ideation piece of software. So it helps to do inquiry, conduct like really organized inquiry that that generates more imaginative thoughts and like kind of like self criticism for you and your organization to use together. So that's a piece of software that I'm collaborating with a few people on, and we're still populating some of the like the questions, the inquiry questions, but the program is running and it already works. So those are going to be available to the latter one, the inquiry thing, is going to be available to all patrons. The grassroots phone tree software thing is going to be available to like $20 and higher. And then also I mentioned there's like winter camp coming up in mid-February. I'm going to kick that off, and it's going to be like a month-long game, a collaborative game. That's like a fictional save the world in a month scenario thing where all the players are going to get to like do like the actual work of trying to collaborate on a problem that like fictitiously would like kind of save the world just a little bit. Because that's really like, it's never like all or nothing, right? And so it's like a scenario thing that'll help people to like kind of flex these muscles and in like kind of a safe environment work on like a kind of a big world problem. So that's stuff that Squiggles is doing right now. We'll look over, I have some notes written down on sticky notes, make sure I covered everything. I think I did. And that's it. The big takeaway that I really want to leave with people about what Squiggles is doing, I'm gonna hold this up again, yay! What Squiggles is doing is asserting this notion that we don't need the government, we don't need to reform the, like laws of society or whatever to make a lot of progress, completely reshaping like things like the economy, reshaping how people's needs get met, how community safety is provided for, all those things. We can get really, really far without changing a single law, without taxing the rich, without doing anything that's like mostly out of our hands. And what's great is if we do actually get as far as we can get, without interacting with like, especially the federal government at all, then we will have built enormous political power and community power. And so we'll have the leverage to do things like change, big factors of the state. And we'll be like an actual, like any community that can like provide for its own needs and make like the police obsolete, like completely obsolete, like has leverage. And so that's the thing that Squiggles wants to do. Squiggles wants to like help people train and develop to build sovereignty and make like just nonsensical government stuff obsolete. So that's what we're doing. That's what I'm working on. That's what I want to do with you in these discussions and in these forums, these courses and like talks that I hold and all those things. That's all I got. Thank you so much for your time, for listening to this. If you're seeing this as a patron, I hope that helps you to navigate what you're already paying for and know how to get value out of this. If you're seeing this as not a patron, I hope that you'll join me for $2 a month and support this work so that I can make this my total focus, because I'm still doing like, client writing, like ghost writing pieces for marketing that it doesn't really have to do with this core work. I'm still doing a little bit of that because there's not a whole lot of patron support right now. So I want to focus entirely on building community sovereignty, on helping you to like achieve your community goals holistically without, you get the point. Thank you so much. I'm gonna stop rambling. Squiggles.com, patreon.com/squiggles, spelled SQGLZ, because I made it so legible right there. SQGLZ. Thank you. See you guys next time.